Hello, hello. My name is Kyle Mathews, and I'm the co-founder of Gatsby, and super excited to present to you about Gatsby and what it's all about. So Gatsby is the front end for any CMS. So we connect with Contentful, WordPress, Shopify, Drupal, etc. So the agenda for today is what is Gatsby and why I should use it, and how Gatsby and Gatsby Cloud works. As the founder of the project, I have a lot of insight into the kind of the detailed technical stuff, and I want to dive in and kind of uncover the mystery of what's going on under the hood. And also just want to say too that really sad I couldn't be in there in person. Been really looking forward to visiting Israel. I spoke in 2017 at ReactNext also. And I was looking forward to coming back. Also my first conference since the pandemic started, and I've been really missing, kind of the great vibe of being around, hundreds of, developers and chatting about all sorts of stuff. But sadly, just not to be. COVID's still winning. Anyways, here we are. Okay, so let's dive in. So first, why have thousands of websites chosen Gatsby? And the simple answer is we make the hard part of building websites simple. So, for a great website, you want, really good site performance, lighthouse scores, conversion rates, SEO. You want, good security, accessibility, scalability out of the box. And you want a great developer experience for React engineers. And Gatsby kind of gives you all that in a simple use package. Gatsby is a React meta framework. It was started in 2015, so one of the oldest out there that's still going. Maybe the oldest is still going. Next.js was started in 2016. So we started as a static site generator. Perhaps that's what you know us as, but in the last year or so, we've added full support for kind of serverless API routes and SSR. So we do both static and dynamic. And it's a big ecosystem, 52,000 GitHub stars and thousands of contributors to, the plugins, to docs, and to the framework itself. And Gatsby sits at the center of three massive trends in our industry. There's a shift from monolithic CMSs like WordPress or Drupal or many enterprise CMS to like kind of modular, composable backend services that you kind of stitch together to build your website. And then also like the rise of JS component-driven front ends and hosting, which is like CDN serverless first instead of you have a server and all the requests all around the world come to kind of that server or small cluster of servers. Instead, like the website is served from CDNs and like dynamic stuff is run on serverless functions. Which is a huge paradigm shift and a big improvement. And so Gatsby was designed for this world. You build your site with React, you deploy it to a CDN, you integrate with backends through plugins, and you build APIs with serverless functions. Our whole mantra is, build better sites faster. But getting the best, Gatsby experience isn't possible just any web hosting. After starting the project, a few years after starting the project, raised VC money, and we built Gatsby Cloud. Which is the only cloud tool which is built for Gatsby. And you get a lot of really nice advantages from it. You get, way faster builds and deploys. You get shareable previews. So whether you're editing code, making a PR, or if you're working on some content in your CMS, each change you make gives you a kind of a unique shareable URL that you can share with your team. And like fantastic site performance. We host your site on a global edge network. It's, kind of latest and best instead of the CDN experience. And the biggest difference for sure is just like how much faster builds and deploys are. It's just a completely different world when you build your site in Gatsby Cloud versus any other sort of CI/CD service, up to 10, 20x faster easily. And we have first class integrations with a number of backends like Data CMS, Shopify, Contentful, Content6, Sandy, WordPress, Drupal, Prismic. As you can read the whole list yourself. And we work really closely with them to make sure that you have a great experience if you're using Gatsby with them. So quote from a customer, New Relic, they host their doc sites with us, and they have 8,000 MDX pages, and ship tons of daily updates, and their builds are way faster than what they were getting before with AWS Amplify. Okay, so let's dive in. How does Gatsby work? So this diagram here is we're going to keep referring back to it kind of as we go the rest of this time. I'm going to show you some demos and show you some typical ways to use Gatsby. But let's run through it real quick, and then we'll kind of pop back to this to kind of reference it. So first is, so this is kind of the flow of data going from the CMS through different parts of Gatsby, and then finally to a CDN. So data starts in the CMS. Your CMS is your source of truth for kind of content on your website. And a source plugin, like a Gatsby source plugin, is responsible for fetching updates from the CMS. So if you're using like Contentful, you use like Gatsby source Contentful to kind of pull that in. And what source plugins do is they kind of abstract away talking to the CMS. Like they know how to get data efficiently from the CMS, and then they write that data to the Gatsby DB. And the Gatsby DB can then be queried from different pages. And so each page in Gatsby can have a GraphQL query, which kind of queries the DB, the data from different, backends, and then pulls that data into those. And then we generate a page from it, and then both like the data and the HTML are pushed to a CDN. And so what that means is, you can have a site, and all this data. This is the kind of the Gatsby starter Contentful. All the data here is, pulled from Contentful, but it's all static. Like there's no request when you load this page. There's no request being made to Contentful. It's all kind of static files on the CDN. So if you like refresh that, it's just like super fast to kind of grab everything you need. And that's great because it just ensures that your site's really fast and it's really simple to host because you kind of like abstracted away from the backend. Like it's always easy to, there's like increased traffic doesn't put increased load in your backend. Okay, so that's fine and dandy. You have React components, you have this Gatsby DB, you have GraphQL queries, like data gets pulled in, it gets processed and built out to files, deployed to CDN. And so the natural question a lot of people ask this is like, well, that's fine and dandy, but isn't that kind of slow? Like, doesn't that, isn't that always slow? Or, or sometimes does that get slow as the site gets bigger? And yeah, and the answer is, well, no, actually, because Gatsby has a bunch of tricks under the hood to make this process fast. So if we go back to the slides, this is kind of like showing, kind of a cold build, what we call it, like kind of the initial build, and where the source plugin has to fetch all data and then write it all to the DB and then generate every page and write every one of those to the CDN. But that's not the typical case. Like typically, you're only updating like a tiny bit of the site. So you have a 1,000-page site, and a marketer goes in and like edits, some random page. What comes in through this process now is just, a small entry is updated in the CMS, and that's all that gets pulled into the CMS, the source plugin. That's all that's written to the DB. And then Gatsby's smart enough to know that, hey, page 1 hasn't updated, page 2 hasn't updated, only page 3 is updated. And so that means then only, that page is regenerated and pushed to it. And so instead of, a full build can be slower, it does get slower as your site gets larger, but incremental builds, it only is as slow as as the amount that you're changing. So if you change one page, then that's going to get deployed very quickly. Yeah, so let's see what that's like. So we have this page or the site, and it's running. So this is kind of the version running in Gatsby Cloud. So like this is the dashboard for that, and then we also have it running locally. And so if we query, so this is GraphQL, which kind of gives you an IDE for querying, the Gatsby DB. So if we query that, we can see our 3 blog posts. And if we go into the Contentful dashboard and we edit it to say, Gatsby sites are really great, and then we publish that, we first see that here, let me refresh this, it's been, well, it's actually already finished. So, 6.11, so this one just built and deployed. And then if we go to our terminal, we can tell the local site to refresh itself. And it pulled the updates, and then we can also see Gatsby sites are really great. We query this, and now it says Gatsby sites are really great. And what's cool is that on both, locally and the cloud version, there's actually like 2 pages that use this blog post. There's the front page, which has all the blog posts, but then if we go into this, it's also updated. So it's this diagram is actually a bit misleading because or it's not misleading, but it's incomplete because like a single page can like rely on multiple pieces of data, and so it can be invalidated and rebuilt from different stuff. So, anyways, yeah. So let's just kind of show that again, where really, really great. And then we publish that, and so then we can see here, getting built. And then it's refreshing, creating pages, uploading, deploying. Okay, so if we refresh that, now we have both these pages, as you can tell, are updated. And then again, locally, we have to sort of manually trigger the refresh. In Cloud, there's a webhook going from Contentful to Cloud, which kind of automates that. But anyways, we do this manually, and then same thing. Now really, really great, and really, really great. So yeah, and same thing. We can do that. So as you can see, this process is, quite fast. Kind of the last several builds, it's, builds in like kind of 2 to 4 seconds, and it deploys in under a second. So, overall, this site, is published in around 3 to 5 seconds. So from the second you click publish to when it goes live is like, just a few seconds. And what's awesome about this is that, again, it scales extremely well. So, this page or this site, maybe has like 5 pages, tiny. But even like a 10,000 page site, we're doing only incremental steps. So we only pull the latest bits from the CMS. We write only those to DB, and intelligence says like, okay, of these like 1,000 pages, only these 7 need to be rebuilt, and all of that happens extremely quickly. And this is kind of where the big improvement over trying traditional CI/CD, because Gatsby Cloud is like a heavily optimized system that kind of does all these incremental updates to your site on the fly, and is very, very fast compared to kicking off like a new CI/CD job when something changed. Okay, and let's see. This is built with Contentful, this demo, but there's tons of different other source plugins that you can use to kind of get similar sort of functionality. 769 plugins that match Gatsby source. So some of the most popular ones are just like pulling stuff for your file system. Contentful is very popular. GraphQL lets you add in kind of third party. Like if you have your own GraphQL API, you can pull it in. WordPress, Shopify, Drupal, etc., etc. There's tons of these. And yeah, so let's go back to this. So just to reiterate, it's like the goal of Gatsby is to be, the best front end for your CMS. And it accomplishes that through source plugins, which kind of sit between Gatsby and the CMS and sort of like standardize that integration so that you don't have to learn, if you're using your CMS, you don't have to learn, the API, you don't have to learn how to like fiddle with the data to make it, work with your front end, like how to load the data into your front end in a performant way. The source plugin plus Gatsby DB kind of, what's the word? Kind of abstracts that from you. So like if you, plugging in a new CMS or using a new CMS doesn't take any more work for you as a React developer to learn. And then, through GraphQL, you can then pull in bits of data into each page. And then the data in the resulting page are written out to the CDN. So they're, load very fast, and your site's very scalable. And then updates, when updates happen to the CMS, it triggers sort of a delta fetch, delta writing to the Gatsby DB, delta rebuilding of individual pages, and all of that leading to, kind of fast publishes. And so this is actually, I hope you're thinking like, this is really cool tech, this is really interesting, this is like usable. But I think like bigger picture, like this is actually a fundamentally different way on how to like kind of update your website, how to like build, architect your website. Because traditionally there's been basically two ways to run a site. You have static site generation, which is like you use some program which generates all the pages and assets for the site. And then there's SSR with caching, which is what, WordPress, Drupal, Ruby on Rails, and kind of like most modern kind of other meta frameworks, like Next.js or Next or Svelte or something, do kind of SSR with caching, where they render the page and then like cache that. They render kind of the page on the fly based on request, and then cache that at the CDN. And so, and these two have sort of very strengths and disadvantages. But it's basically it. And so, like, static site generators have always been renowned for just their simplicity, because you run a build and then you never have to think about the site again because there's nothing running. And SSR with caching, people like it because it's very simple to kind of build dynamic stuff, and it means that like changing data in a database or a CMS gets reflected pretty quickly on the site. So like you update the CMS, and then that page, the cache expires eventually, and then it gets rebuilt, and then voila, it's updated. And so, and that's both of these two kind of paradigms proven kind of like stable, robust places for sites to be built with. But Gatsby is the third way. So, and it's kind of this paradigm known as like real-time stream processing, where it's sort of event-based. So it's like as things happens, it sort of does this like incremental rebuild of the site. And that's like very different from static site generation, which sort of rebuilds the entire site, and SSR with caching, which is like you have caches, and when those expire, you like rebuild part of your site. Real-time stream processing is different in that the processing step, it like takes that event and knows how to update every part of the site, or every part of the site, and do it very quickly. So it's like event comes in saying like, hey, this like thing was changed, and then it can like follow a dependency tree and then say, okay, like these parts of the thing needs rebuilt, and it rebuilds just those and then pushes them out. And so this is like a big trend in sort of the big data world, moving from batch processing like Hadoop to kind of real-time streaming tools like Kafka and Spark. And this kind of Gatsby real-time stream updates gives you the best of both worlds for static site generation and sort of SSR caching, where you get fast sites because your whole site is always cached, always on the CDN. There's no running services that you have to like keep up with like spikes in traffic. So it's like very simple to host. It's always fast. You don't have like weird slowdowns or glitches, when traffic spikes. But also, it doesn't have that, the big prominent disadvantage of static site generators of slow site publishes, because whatever happens, like whenever you change something in the CMS or some other data source, it's going to get published to your site very quickly due to Gatsby's kind of incremental build stream processing. And all this magic of kind of like incremental builds or streaming website builder, et cetera, it gets on, it's only unlocked in Gatsby Cloud because, static site generators kind of rely on the technology of like CI/CD, where something happens, you deploy a Docker container, you run a build process, and publish that, which is robust. It scales nicely for sort of the CI/CD deployer, but it's actually really slow. Where Gatsby Cloud kind of runs, it takes your Gatsby site and turns in sort of this like real-time site builder. So like as a request comes in, it immediately updates and pushes out very quickly to the CDN. And we've built a system where everything's tightly integrated. and every bit of like excess latency is taken out of it. And so the resulting, experience is dramatically different than what you kind of get with an SSG on a CI/CD pipeline. And people who use it, it's just like it's a game changer, and they love it. So that's Gatsby, and that's kind of the story. Would love to hear from you what you think about Gatsby, and would love for you to go to gatsbyjs.com and try it out. We have a bunch of starters that you can use Gatsby with a CMS, and hopefully your next CMS site is built with Gatsby. Thank you.